Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is April 28th, and this is another of our monthly 6 July bug scrubs. My name is Mate, but our today's host is actually Eddie, so I'll pass the baton to Eddie.
Hello, gonna share my screen. Can you see this?
Zaro Books, yeah.
Cool. Now that was release engineering. Don't get excited.
I was about to say, yeah, we finally got this, but why are you writing me this?
All right, so Mache opened up this issue. This is 1046. So let's start here. This is to hold the umbrella issue for refactoring the kube control commands. Mache, you want to drive this?
Yeah, so I'll quickly, if you can open the wait command. So this is something that it'll take at least a couple of releases. I'm not expecting us to quickly get it through the line, but I would like to start this thing rolling. So in short, we currently have an option structure, and with every option structure in most, probably all of the commands, there's usually complete, validate, run methods. This is good because you can actually easily unit test every single command. The downside is that we are very tightly coupled with Cobra flags. So if at some point in time, eventually in the future, we would love to change from Cobra to some new fancy CLI library that will be more powerful than Cobra, it will be very hard. We would like to be able to even split this more by having flag structure and option structure, such that flag structure will be strictly for wiring the flags, and options will be the actual logic of every single command. Wait is a perfect example of such a command where this is strictly, we have a strict boundaries between where flags are end and where options start. This allows other commands to embed the wait functionality, either through also exposing the wait flags or just by exposing the functionality, and it will be up to the author which part they are interested in it. There are interesting stuff also in the wait flags where we are using printer flags, resource builder flags, but that will be something that while you will be working on every single command, you'll have to tackle one by one. So wait is probably the simplest example. I'll be working on get and logs. I'll probably put an information that I'm picking those two already for others to know. And we would like to push this forward. What I would like to achieve at some point in time, but that won't be probably for 122, maybe closer to 123 when we have at least a couple commands done, I would like to turn this description of a structure into a cap for future generation. The reason for that is currently a lot of people will come to us asking what the command looks like, how to write one, how to work with this. We have a lot of dogs, and myself and Sean and Eddie and Phil, we were talking about a structure of every single command. But if we write it down as a cap, that hopefully in the long run should help people understand. I'll try to throw a little bit of history where we started, how we got to where we are in the cap once we have a rough idea. Because when I was looking at the wait command last time with Eddie, what we've noticed is the wait command does not have validate nor complete. And when I was working on the logs earlier today, I was actually inclined to get rid of the complete method in favor of the two options, which is basically translating flags to particular structure options. So it might be possible that this pattern will be the new pattern, and we will have to figure out whether the rest stays. But run will be there as is. The question is how much of two options and validate we want to keep, because oftentimes the validate also has validate is also returning the flag name, and I'm worried that that means that it still leaves the validation very tightly coupled. Maybe not necessarily. Sean said probably don't need complete and validate if we move to options. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing from looking at least at the logs command. But since I don't have the clear picture, the wait is the only example that we currently have. I would like to see a couple commands done. Once we have this implemented, we can try to formalize this in the form of cap. So first of all, this will be open for everyone, and that could also be a potentially good first-time issue for a lot of folks to work on.
That's great. Do you think people should wait to jump in until the additional example that you're talking about, like until you've got that worked out, so it's clear what the pattern is, or are there other simple commands that could be worked on right away?
I'm pretty sure that there are other simple commands. Logs and get are the heavy guns rather. I'm pretty sure that there are simpler, which is, I don't know, API versions, API resources. They should be pretty straightforward. The amount of flags that there are is rather small. The question is whether they, well, API versions, I remember. Does API versions have any flags? Well, actually, API version does not have any flags, so that's another question whether we want to have something. API resources does have a group version, I think. Yeah, it has a lot more because it has API group and a couple others. Namespace, no header. So API resources should be pretty straightforward. API versions is something that we might want to have a closer look, whether we want to what we want to do with those that don't have any flags, how to treat those special cases. But yeah.
So my recommendation would be I want to remove the help wanting good first issue for now. I think that us, more core folks should take in a command or two and see if we can each implement one and get a feel for it, kind of like a beta run, and then we can, open it up and have more examples to point to. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I'll be tackling the logs and get in the next weeks. That hopefully will give a better overview how we can tackle those, and then we can slowly start to invite other folks. Logs, the comment is logs. We used to have log, but we got rid of that one actually.
Yeah, so if anyone else wants to pick one up and have a go at it, feel free to claim it on here for now.
I can take the create one, at least the root one, not the subcommons, but maybe the create -f and see what I can do with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, anyone else, feel free to grab one. Any other thoughts before we move on?
I was working on drain and describe recently, so I could take one of those if you think it's suitable, but I haven't looked at the flags because it's not the part I was changing. Well, I was adding a flag, so it's pretty simple.
give it a try and see if you struggle with it. Just ping any of us, and we can either set up a quick call or try to figure it out. It's fine to open a work in progress PR, and then we can discuss there as well.
Great.
I'll do the config. I'll pick something out of that because that was the last command I rewrote.
Yeah, I was about to say that you're very familiar with the config command. We did got that config command when you were working on it last time.
Yeah, we redid it to the other way we were looking at them. Cool. Okay. So funny enough, we have like 4 new issues that were open in the past day. I've been able to stay on top of this mostly, and I've started writing up a handbook that we can like hand off to other people for like a triage type role. Part of that, at the end of this, I'd like to save like 5 or 10 minutes to talk through triage party and like what we would see as like good filter options for this. So let's just walk backwards through the newest ones here. So this is 1045. Schema error. Array should have exactly 1 sub item.
Right, the CRD validation, because I would be curious to see the entire error, but basically we used to have problems with CRDs because the kubectl side of validation wasn't as good as the server side. So it would be good to know whether the error that he's seeing or she's seeing is coming from the server or client. And based on that, we can then quickly identify where the problem is coming from. Because in 122, thanks to, and I can quickly pull up his name, because I was pinging, Gautier Delorme, he eliminated the Go Open API validation bits, and we are in line with what the server side validation logic has.
What V is that for a better error message? 8?
I mean, just the entire error message that he's getting should be sufficient. If that's a server side, that at some point in time there will be a very distinct. If you want to ignore this error, just use validate false, which means the client side validation tells you, oh, we just had issues validating your request. But it is possible that the server will properly validate that. So just ignore client-side validation, push it to server. And in most cases, that solves a lot of problems. Because like I said, that's the downside that we had. But this should be fixed. And yeah, the info about version scoop does make sense as well.
Okay. Okay. This is 1044. Place cachedir.tag file. Okay, it's a feature request. We don't have Doug on here, do we? It sounded like the XDGG stuff was going to be stalled out and not happen.
Doug asked me to cover him, but yeah, I'm taking a look into this standard, but I need to read better. What is this? You can assign that to me and to Doug, Eddie. I can provide him later some information, and we can do the further triage.
I was also going through caps, a lot of caps over the past couple of days, and I left a comment there for Doug that since a lot of folks is raising significant concerns about the XDG directory specification, I was actually inclined to complete the cap and put there all the suggestions and concerns that people are saying and merge it as a rejected, because I checked that it is possible for us to have a rejected cap, and we would use that rejected cap as a piece of docs for future generations and future questions where people will be asking, oh, why are not doing this? And we would point them, oh, have a look at this rejected cap. We looked at it, and these are the problems that we've identified. And based on that input, we decided that we are not going to pursue this. That's a comment that I left for Doug. We could probably just complete that one and make sure that this makes sense. I'm not sure if I haven't seen any follow-up from Doug based on that, but
what was the pushback for having like that be the first place to look and everything else being fallback?
I think the majority of the concerns is around the tooling around the not even close but second level and third level tooling that is built on the assumptions where we have kubectl. And a lot of them are just assuming by hard coding, knowing the past history. So we could theoretically introduce environment variables and whatnot, but at the end of the day, there's already this many people using it. Probably if we could come up with this at a sooner time frame, it will be possible. But given this is out in the wild for, I don't know, like 5-6 years by now, it's the spread will be big and the change might be too costly.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Okay, this is 1043. Customize version 121 not supporting YAML references.
Yeah, I think there is a basically mirror of this issue open on the customized repo. It looks really familiar. There's a problem with updating Go YAML that is speculated to solve this and other issues, but it also contains a breaking change to formatting. So that's there's an open PR to do the upgrade, but it needs more tests to prove that it actually fixed this to justify the major change, because it would be a major version bump on the CLI. So it's unfortunately a bit complicated. I can dig up the customized side issue.
Please, can you close this one as you'll track it there instead? I know that Go YAML issue all too well. That took up like over a week when I was dealing with upgrading Cobra. Oh gosh. Cube control setenv not working for init containers. Okay, I looked at this a little bit. And I believe that this is probably a real thing because init containers didn't exist at this point. Is this something we want to support? This is
That's-
1042.
That seems reasonable. I'm pretty sure that this was addressed for, sorry, different. Yeah, so something like that was done for set image. So it seems reasonable to add this to other commands, and it could be a rather simple thing to add. So I would leave it open and mark it as a good first time issue. And init containers is a good place to look for those because it's there. I'm not sure if others are there. So there are others which have this problem as well.
Okay.
Yeah, set resources have a similar problem. Not sure if you can set a resource on any container, but it's possible. Yeah. Yeah, correct.
Okay. What is this one? Diff. I think Doug was looking at this one. I will ping Doug on this. Okay. Wrong port number displayed when port forwarding.
Yeah, I'm waiting this one because I did some tests and didn't get this error, but it's with needs information. So I don't know if we have like a deadline for needs information as well.
Well, the
But-
bot will close it after 90 days.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still
But
waiting. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if they're not responding, feel free to close it and tell them to reopen when they're ready.
Yeah, I will do another ping and say, hey, because I've asked the user to send me the YAML file trying to reproduce and didn't got it. Or even like the YAML file for the service, or even like because the port forward didn't got this error to me.
Okay, create secret TLS. I think you're looking at this one as well.
Yes, this is there is already a PR open. I think I've asked some other changes. I will take a look into all of them today.
Yeah, no rush. That was a first time contributor. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a too many functions are coupled to Cobra commands. We'll be closed by that.
Maybe it would be worth closing that one. Since we have the
Okay.
yeah.
I'm never against closing issues.
It's just pointless to have three open about one topic that we are tackling.
This one, what is this? CSI
Okay.
should.
I'll be looking at it. I have it on my never-ending but I just didn't get to it.
Okay. Katrina's looking at that one.
Can we have a quick look at that one? I mean, that one looked really interesting just to know a little bit more about. I mean, could we just have a quick look at it? Is that okay? That open API one or the discovery one? So in a nutshell, what is Clayton looking for here? The API groups doesn't exist. API versions does.
I think there are a couple issues which are in general about the kubectl usage. Since this is from 4 years, it requires a little bit of time to go through each and every single item, verify whether we have. It's possible that we are addressing at least half of the things that he's mentioning. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton in here.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I used to maintain a deploy tool, and one of the things it wanted to know was what resources exist, whether or not they were namespaced, and what group was the most current group for them. And I remember that code being difficult to write. So it's probably at least a couple of years ago, it was still true.
Cool. Yeah. So we have API versions. And then it looks like he also wanted API groups, and then the get all namespaced was to get the cluster scope versus namespace scoped. Yeah, I was just curious since Clayton's one of the original guys, just what he thinks things should look like.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's changed in the past, what, 5 years? That's cool. I wonder, anything we do like this would have to be done server side now, right? We didn't even do that much server side when he opened this issue.
So you could do it client side with the open API or the discovery, right?
Yeah, you have all the information about all the resources registered at the cluster level from the discovery. That's one of the initial things that we are reaching out to server to get the information about what's possible and what is not possible, and how to interpret certain resources. Only when you try to get something, for example, get something that we don't know, we will invalidate the cache and read it again because maybe something got created that we just don't know. So all the information about all namespace, whether it is or not namespace, whether it's a CRD or built-in, all those information are they explain that he's talking about. We fix a little bit of explain because beforehand, if you had two resources with a register for two different API groups, because OpenShift had that problem. We have one particular resource, a resource name, which was registered in two different resources. We would only pick one, and there was no option for you to pick the other. That's how the mapper that was created was written incorrectly. So that's fixed. Currently, you can actually.
I have a quick question, Mache. Sorry to interrupt, because I just ran into something where the discovery, once you throw you apply a CRD, now your REST mapper that you're using is out of sync, and you have to reset it. And that reset, it was really, I've seen really ugly code where it had to like downcast to the deferred discovery in order to call the reset on that so that it would reset the discovery. Is there a better way to do that, or is that do you know what I'm talking about? I know I'm going down into the weeds here, but
So basically what we do is, there's one PR that I have, which is improving the situation because I think we have some wrong things going on. I can't remember the exact PR. I would have to look it up. But basically, yes, you're correct. We are trying to match a particular resource against the known mappings that we read from the server. If we figure out that we don't know it, we will invalidate the cache and read everything from the server once again. And only then we can, tell the user that, oh, it's actually something that you don't know. But I have a PR, this one, but 96771 for a shortcut. And we try, I can't remember what the original idea was, but it's still something that people would want to see happening.
Yeah, I imagine that's really common with CRDs and with the REST mapper getting out of sync. I didn't mean to hijack. I was just
No. That's fine. I mean, it was related with the short names specifically, because yeah, there. I think there is a description. Oh, right. Yeah.
The last thing that jumps on this is, since we're trying to move away from any sort of get all in the first place, I would say that this should be pushed out to a plugin, right? Just this specific functionality.
I think what he wants to do here is not necessarily get all namespace, and I'm probably trying not to do it, but he's more leaning towards getting all the resources that are namespace. But I'm not envisioning us doing something crazy as get all the resources that are namespaced everywhere. Yeah, I mean, no. There is a topic of, so server has something called aliases, and every CRD can register an alias or register themselves into an alias. The problem with the aliases, I can't remember what it's called in the CRD definition. They are very hard to figure out what's going on, and we are trying not to have them hard-coded like it used to be with the kubectl. But there are questions and suggestions about having the client-side aliases for stuff. But then again, if you want to go with something like that, then probably all you need to have is a bash alias for whatever you care about.
There's short names, but there's also, yeah, groups, right, that you can get your CRD into. Is that the one you're talking about? So like aliases for groups of resources as opposed to aliases for an individual resource.
Yeah. Right. I would have to pick up, I would need to have the API to know what the field name is. But yeah, there is something like that. And I remember adding something for the webhook thingies. I created an alias for all of those categories. That's what it is called in the CRD, categories. And one resource can be part of several categories. That's the all, for example, and similar.
So what do we want to do with this issue today here?
I will leave it open for now. If someone is interested in going through all of the things that Clayton mentions, it's fine and we can comment on it. I want to personally go through this and make sure that some of the things that he's mentioning does make sense, and we would want to consider them. Some won't happen at all. But I would like to distill this into inactionable items.
What's this one? Autocomplete. Okay, so that brings up, we have to go through Mark's PR because that thing's been open so long and he put a ton of work into it.
I remember that one.
And it's really, I started playing with it locally and it's really cool what it gives us the power to do. We can define custom functionality for completion inside Go code. So we don't need to mess around with any janky bash. It basically pulls out all of the bash that's in there. Every single command can define custom functionality for expansions and completions. And it's just a really big PR. Every time I open it, I get intimidated.
I have it on my list, but I'm inclined to say that I'll push this after the enhancement freeze, which is on May 13th. I have a couple tabs that I need to push through first.
Okay.
Before I'll get to this, but yeah, it will be good to get something going for 122 with this.
Yeah, it also gives us the ability to test any completion functionality, which is really cool. We can check if anything breaks or when people add new things, if it doesn't complete correctly.
Yeah, I'll take a look at this too, but it actually helps us too with some of the, I can't remember who was that was saying they were trying to do completions with a ton of resources, and it was like timing out during the completions and things. So
yeah,
I think this will help with that as well potentially, but yeah, I've got this on my list to look at it.
Yeah, it definitely, so I built it and tested it locally, and it actually sped up completion for just about everything because it's now done in Go instead of waiting for bash.
I mean,
because
Eddie,
the bash brought back a whole bunch of extra stuff that we didn't really need for completion. So that
Right.
Yeah, so this will help.
I mean, Eddie and Brian, if you feel comfortable and you'll be okay with it, just don't wait for me. I'll get to this PR and we can address any comments after it gets merged. There's nothing stopping you. If both of you are fine with this, I know it's big, just get it merged and we can cover whatever will be needed afterwards. But if this is improving situation significantly, I'm all in.
Yeah, there's a couple to-dos we have to address. I think what I'll do is I'll send an email to KDev and I'll ask people to take a look at it and play with it and maybe do a build and see if they find any bugs.
It would have been cool to do just one of them to make sure that one of the completion commands worked, and then, you know, do them more iteratively instead of one big massive PR.
Yeah, I think Mark asked me about that and I might have told him to do it all at once, so that's probably my fault.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, I think I might have been responsible for that too, because I was concerned about getting having two different ways of doing completions, and that if we didn't get rid of all the bash stuff, that it would live forever and we would have multiple ways. But yeah, I know it's kind of it is a big thing though.
Yeah, that would be my worry as well, that we would actually end up in a half-baked solution to maybe, you know, maybe it's good, maybe it would be just better to merge it as soon as possible. And then we have sufficient amount till, if I remember correctly, July 8th or something like that is the feature for the code freeze for 122. That's more than 2 months. So that will have sufficient coverage and E2Es and people working with Cube on a daily basis.
Yeah, he's got a few fixed me's and to-dos in here. So, okay, Brian and I can take a look at it. We can sync offline on that, Brian. Okay, so that's this one. Well, that's going to close soon. All right, I'll deal with that later. Any other ones that people want to look at before we jump into the main repo?
We're slow. We have like 15 minutes till the end of the time. And you wanted to talk about the triage party configuration.
Yeah, let's do that.
Maybe
Good call.
Right.
So triage party is just that tool that I always go through. It's on my list to move it to Kubernetes infrastructure. So it'll lose my cool vanity domain name, but that's okay. Right now, the config I'm using is the stock default config out of here. And it's extremely customizable and flexible. So it's all just YAML filters that we can apply different rules to. All of these sections, here's the release engineering one. And they do actually a really good job of keeping it clean, apparently. So it's not a good demo. I think some other folks have moved to triage party as well. Lori's also a big driving force behind this, and I know she helped the other folks do it. So basically what I'd like to get together is what kinds of sections would be valuable for people. I think some of the ones in here are good. I guess, so actually the open questions are, I want to pull in the main Kubernetes repo. So I want to pull in some issues and everything that's in here for the main Kubernetes repo. What would be valuable and what would be noise is the real question.
What comes to mind?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that per the message that we sent out, we wanted to focus more on issues that are active and have a lot of upvotes. So I think that would be the most important thing to get in there so that we can actually follow through on our messaging there.
That's one thing. And the other, I'm even inclined to have a separate section for the upvotes with regards to the email that I sent earlier today. But the other thing is we can probably just have a generic SIG CLI. And then after one or two bug scrubs, we'll see how many noise we have versus how much we want to have. And then we can figure out what we just need to eliminate. I've noticed that API machinery is very active in getting rid of the SIG API machinery from those issues where they are not hard.
Federico is so good at that.
Yeah, I know. So maybe we should be doing exactly the same thing. Oh, quick look. Oh, it's not SIG CLI. Just drop SIG CLI from there, and it's gone. Maybe initial 1 or 2 meetings, it'll take us a little bit longer time to go through those and remove the actual noise. And over time, we'll just reach a point where this won't be a noise anymore. So probably just start simple, and then we can always iterate, because trying to come up with some fancy initially, just, I don't know. I'm worried that we will end up in some weird, funky situation that we will be actually missing stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so I'll pull it all in and then we'll see where we go from there. I'll add some like smart filters and some more like smart sections. So we'll call it like what needs triage and stuff. And
probably initial 3 sections that I can think of is the most popular issues per the email, so that we know what we want to push forward, and then 2 sections for bugs and I don't know, something that just needs follow-up. And the question is whether we want to throw together kubectl and Kubernetes issues together, or we want to have separate them out. I'm fine with both approaches as well.
okay, I wrote all that down. The other thing that we've never actually used is this can be a multiplayer type thing. So we can actually sort this by the number of players. So say there's like 5 of us on the call. I can send this link to everybody and it will shard and give everybody different issues that they can look through. So it's a really cool tool by Thomas.
No, I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
What about other repos that the SIG owns in some sense, like Customize? Should we be bringing that in, or do they all have their own separate processes?
Probably eventually. I mean, we could check with Jeff and team and see what their thoughts are. And they could, these top sections are nice too, because these are all configurable. So we could have like a whole SIG CLI and then we can break it out by repo or project.
That's very nice, yeah.
What did release engineering do? Yeah, they have release team, release engineering team, CI signal team. So they're all, you can break them out however you want.
Yeah, I think this would be very helpful for Customize. That's just my take on it, but Customize has a really high issue volume as well. So looks very useful.
Yeah, okay, Ricardo shared that. I wasn't sure where to find it and I don't want to fumble around, so thank you for finding that, Ricardo. Yes, okay, this is how they break it out. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't know that you wanted to move that to the AAA cluster. I was going to ask you if you want some help before you showing this. So if you need some help to move to cluster, to infrastructure cluster, I can help you with that.
Yeah, please. I've been talking with Ahmad, who actually did the work for these guys.
Yeah, he's the chair of infra, but I participate in that working group as well. So it's gonna be pretty straightforward to open these and ask them to apply this to the cluster. We can just discuss if you want to send me the current config map, and then we can actually, this is not automated yet, and I've been discussing with them also, like why can't we use some Terraform or something like that as well.
Got it. Okay, I'll see with you offline too.
Sure.
Any other open things people want to talk through?
Yeah,
I will probably write in the next 2 months another cap about the localization thing I was discussing with Eddie and with Antoine as well. But I am with a pretty low bandwidth to do all of those things. So this is, I don't think it's a high priority, but yeah, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. I can show you what I am thinking about, but that's not like a closed proposal, because it's yeah, it might get a lot of changes as well into the code and some YAML files with the translations, because translating nowadays is like, I've been reviewing the Portuguese one. It's really a pain. It's a I think that's all.
There's this topic that since we've mentioned about the top level, the most voted issues, and Eddie and myself and Laurie were talking about the major themes for 122 with enhancement freeze in 2 weeks from tomorrow, basically. For the next meeting, we would like to bring the most important issues to the Slack within the next couple of days so people can comment the most important ones. And we have the caps pretty much identified. I think the only thing that we don't have yet identified is the top, I don't know, top 5 issues that we want to address for 122. Eddie, were you able to pull something together or not yet?
Yeah, I can grab that easily.
I mean, cap-wise, the exit codes is definitely something that we will be pushing forward, but it's not something that we want to do for 122. even if we would start some implementation, I would probably would want to have that landed yet. Maybe we can keep it in a separate branch for now. And the cap probably alternatively, we can implement that and hide it behind a flag. That's an alternative approach. But the other ones that I know is the sub resource from Nikita and then friend, and the umbrella issues for the options that I mentioned earlier today, and I don't know what else.
So just a quick plug. I was hoping to move the kubectl headers to beta.
Yeah, that too. Okay, I'll add that to my list. So we'll probably create threads if people want to comment. I was actually wanted to sync with you, Sean, about the headers if you're interested in pushing this forward. There is events, but I wouldn't want to push this one. I want to have a closer look at it first, and then now we can eventually push this. The cap for this one already merged, so that shouldn't be a problem. So Sean, for you, the only important thing will be the date for, if you want to bump this to beta, you'll want to update the cap and get it merged within the next 2 weeks. And obviously the sooner the better.
I had a quick question about the server-side describe. Was that ever,
materialized?
did we ever
No.
talk?
I need to ping Clayton about it. I have a as long list as my to-do topic that I need to bump Clayton about, but yeah. Okay, with regards to the list that Eddie pointed out, we can probably sync offline, which are the most things that we would want to probably push forward.
Yeah, people really want colors.
Colors.
Which we had someone looking at that and then they disappeared about writing a cap for it. Yeah, the author of that plugin that colorized everything. I think so. One of the caps we really have to get in there is user configurable options like a kuberc file, because all these fancy, nice things that we're going to want to do are going to have some sort of configuration to enable it or opt in or out of.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we need to have a look at it. The options would be probably something that we could start similar to the exit codes. I would open it for feedback if people are interested in, and then we can have something like that implemented. It seems reasonable. It will be an optional thing, so by default there will be no change. Theoretically, there is already a preference. If I remember correctly, the config field, the config type has something like preferences. We've never used it. Maybe it's about time. So one thing is looking at the mechanics of implementation and how much this would affect the actual work. Probably ANSI colors is a good starting point. So yeah.
I'll put together a cap for that. I've been meaning to do it because we need to separate user configs from cluster configs. And I think that we should not do anything that opts in a cluster config to user options, because there's so much potential for it awful there.
Correct.
All right, I will get on that. I've been pushing it off too long.
I'm curious, last final question. Does the Go completion will solve the third and fourth most voted issue about PowerShell and fish completion?
I think it will actually.
That would be pretty cool.
I think it does
Because-
PowerShell. Let me see.
Okay, because that would basically mean we would be dealing with the most frequently voted issues already. So yeah, maybe we could just bump the batch completion as one of the topics that we want to solve for 122.
It does. It does fish, bash, zeesh, and PowerShell. So we get all that for free.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, so yeah, that would probably be okay. We'll try to sync offline and put this as threads, and we will continue talking about it next week on Wednesday. Okay, thank you very much, all.
Thanks, team. This felt like a great meeting.
Definitely. Have a good one. Take care.
Learned a lot. Thanks.
Folks.